Marvel's Secret Wars, what would it look like if that was translated into a DC project? Now, the answer could simply be Crisis on Infinite Earths. Both of these stories carry huge implications and consequences for a various amount of heroes and the multiverse. How they get there is a little different with the Beyonder and Warworld, and then for DC, Anti-Monitor, and literally the hunger for multiple universes that will eventually crash down into one. So it's not going to have the multiversal flavor or style to the story. It is going to be more so about literally secret wars on multiple worlds, and a secret of wars that people don't know about, the whole context of what Secret Wars is supposed to be about. The main villain of DC's Secret Wars is going to be Eclipso, the Wrath of God, or God in the DC universe being the Presence. His origin within this story will pretty much stay the same, but with being the wrath of God, most of Eclipso's defining qualities is going to be driven by anger, which was needed at one point for the Presence. But as time went on, the Presence decided he needed a different right-hand man to deliver vengeance, something Eclipso would not be able to do. And I would do something where the Presence saw Eclipso becoming way too angry, even in situations that didn't require it, and he knew he was just too unstable to continue working with him. Jim Corrigan becomes Spectre, and then he becomes the Spirit of Vengeance, the new agent to the Presence. And the gem that Eclipso is encased in, the Heart of Darkness, one is sent to the dark side of the moon, and the other is sent to Earth. This all happens roughly 100 years before modern day. Eclipso starts to wonder and ask himself why he was cast out by somebody that he only ever did his due diligence to. He only ever served ever so faithfully. And then he realizes the new agent he has employed, the Spirit of Vengeance, is a human. And he starts to wonder why he has so much love for these little people. Why is a human being entrusted to deliver what the Presence wants over someone like Eclipso, who has only ever done what he's ever asked? He feels jealousy, betrayal, anger, uncertainty, all the really ugly emotions you usually don't want to feel. What Eclipso decides to do is, over the next 100 years, is to basically study humanity. What is it about humanity that the Presence loves so much, and what is it that he believes he loves in humans more than he ever appreciated in Eclipso? And over the years, he takes on new bodies and new hosts so that he can travel the world more appropriately. He sees the creation of multiple mass weapons of destruction across the world. He sees wars envelop. He sees the rise of superheroes, along with them the rise of supervillains. He sees alien races try to conquer the world, and how the world's greatest heroes stop it from happening. He sees a lot of good, but he also sees a lot of bad, and in his case, he would argue far more bad than good. This really develops his case of humanity not being the right choice to be any form of herald for the Presence, or shouldn't even be given any type of attention. Now, Eclipso is powerful, but not all powerful as he once was. The only time he gains his most power is on days of an eclipse, solar or lunar. That is when he is capable of pretty much doing whatever he wishes to do with his power. With that being said, his power does not last too long, because an eclipse does not last forever. What he needs is to be able to hold an eclipse for as long as possible. And we're going to be breaking the laws of physics here, because that is what you can do in comic books, but he wants to tidally lock the moon, the earth, and the sun as it rotates together, so there can be a complete eclipse, a complete darkness over the world. That way he can exact his vengeance, the feeling of betrayal he had with the Presence, and so he can become all-time powerful as he once was before. He feels as if he has been banished long enough, and he wants a form of revenge. That is until one day he feels his power wane even further. One half of himself is no longer on the dark side of of the moon. It's been misplaced, if you will. At one point, Brainiac was here at Earth, and we all know Brainiac to be somewhat of a collector. So he finds this Heart of Darkness on the moon and places it within one of his vaults. Kind of forgets about it. As time has gone on, maybe this is now a couple of years or so, he's realized that he no longer becomes all-powerful during eclipses because the Heart of Darkness has been moved. Well, his prayers are kind of answered as Brainiac one day moves on Apocalypse and tries to take it over, in which Darkseid ends up defeating Brainiac and pretty much removing any of the treasures from the mothership that Brainiac has ever found. And Darkseid finds the Heart of Darkness. He ends up opening it and speaking to Eclipso. At this point in time, there have been many villains that have tried to go up against Earth or the Justice League, and they've all failed. Brainiac, Darkseid, Mongol, any type of evil or villainized lanterns. Darkseid could easily boom tube to Earth, but what would that do when he knows his chances of losing are pretty high? Eclipso enters a deal with Darkseid where he essentially says, if you can secretly move some of the heroes from Earth to other worlds and bring this half of the Heart of Darkness to the other half on Earth, conjoin the two together so I can have my physical form, and then when an eclipse rises, I can become all-powerful. We will both get what we want. I will be able to destroy Earth with all humanity on it, creating the perfect revenge plot against the Presence, and you, Darkseid, will be able to get some of these heroes that you haven't been able to defeat and place them on your world of Apocalypse, in which you now own the playing ground. You now know all of your advantages and disadvantages. You have the upper hand over these heroes, such like Superman, who you really want to defeat. But it doesn't just stop there. They get other people involved, in which they allow more of these heroes, more of these super beings to be misplaced across the universe, in which these heroes as well will have no idea how they've been misplaced and what is truly going on, other than the events they're going to have to face up against on their particular world. Now, it's not like this plan is something Darkseid hasn't thought of before. However, on the scale that Eclipso is presenting it to him, it's definitely not something he would have done. Convincing Darkseid to band together some of these galactic villains and tyrants to all work together in this one master plan so everyone gets what they want. But there is even more to this that Eclipso offers Darkseid to make sure the deal is sealed. He has watched over time, he has seen the movements of Darkseid, and he knows that he wants the anti-life equation, which Eclipso carries within him at all times, but doesn't know how to use, but promises Darkseid that if he helps him with this plan, he will give him the secret to the anti-life equation. So he is in a way lying to him, since he doesn't know how to use it himself, but this is a risk that Darkseid is definitely willing to take. Some of these heroes will be transported to Apocalypse to face Darkseid, some will be transported to Warworld to face Mongol, and some will even be transported to Ranks, the Yellow Lantern planet, in which they will have to fight Yellow Lanterns, and in this story, reprogrammed Manhunters. Where the Secret Wars is coming in is all of these heroes who are being misplaced. They don't exactly know how they're being misplaced or why they're even being sent to these other planets, but every single planet they go to realizes that there is a threat, there is danger, and they have to solve it. All the heroes would be transported to all these planets using a form of boom tube teleportation. Some characters would immediately be able to tell, I think Darkseid is somewhat behind this, but others wouldn't be able to. And these teams would be misplaced randomly, so it's not like all the Justice League would be together and all the Teen Titans would be together. It would be a bunch of characters all randomly randomly finding themselves on worlds ready for war, ready to fight them. The eclipse finally hits, and Eclipso finally regains his true godlike nature and power, pretty much capable of doing anything he wants and keeping the world in a perpetual darkness. What would happen throughout the story is the heroes on these other worlds would figure out what is truly happening, why they were sent to these different battle worlds in a sense, and they would all find ways to escape and retreat back to Earth, whether it is simply them escaping or them actually beating the villain of that planet. Now, when our characters return to Earth to see the chaos that has ensued, this is where things get far more difficult. With Eclipso's power coming into its true potential, this is actually a moment where he discovers how to use the anti-life equation. Now, the remaining heroes and villains that reside on Earth, he uses it on them to basically serve his will. So as these heroes return, they now have to fight them under an everlasting eclipse. This is also where Eclipso is going to finally match up against Spectre. This is truthfully, at the end of the day, the character that Eclipso cares about the most. This is the person he truly has a vendetta with. Him and the Presence. It is all about his hatred for humanity and his disbelief that a regular human who couldn't even do his job right as a detective and who got murdered is somehow entrusted with a spirit of vengeance than Eclipso was. He hates it with every fiber of his supernatural, spiritualistic being. This battle would be destructive and chaotic, especially between Eclipso and Spectre. It would almost seem as if the fabric of space and time was tearing itself apart. Just two beings with an unlimited god-type power. It makes characters like Superman look so insanely pale in comparison. But whereas Eclipso's plan was to originally destroy all the inhabitants of Earth, he starts to figure out that the anti-life equation is one of the most powerful substances in the entire known universe. And now he's starting to change his tune, thinking, what if I use the anti-life equation to actually use humans as my puppets? And if I could potentially even take the spirit of vengeance, Spectre, make him serve my will, and then eventually make my move on the Presence. Eclipso is obviously going to lose this battle, however. Along with the help of many other heroes, Spectre is going to be imbued with a little bit of the Presence power, which is going to help them completely overthrow Eclipso, which will end the eclipse, allow for the rotation of the Earth, Moon, and Sun to go back to normal, and Eclipso's threat is completely defeated. However, the punishment for Eclipso is the biggest thing about this. The Presence would end up taking him into a pocket universe with no other inhabitants whatsoever, placing him on planet Earth with no human beings, entrenching him in a perpetual eclipse for the rest of his days, with no powers whatsoever. He has been completely stripped. Eclipso will now live the rest of his life in perpetual darkness with no other people around him, which is exactly what he's always hated: humans. And the Presence is giving him just that. As the story would end, Earth would have to recover, the heroes would have to recover as well, but a threat would persist. Darkseid would see the anti-life equation in full effect when Eclipso used it. He has seen how powerful it can be, and now he has set his sights on looking for another source of the anti-life equation in which it could exist. Realistically, if a story like that was to pick up following the ending of this story, that could be a DC Secret Wars 2, or it could simply just somehow translate into a Darkseid War type of a story. But there you go, guys. That is a DC's version of Secret Wars. I wanted to make it connected to this idea of a hatred for humanity, considering in Marvel's Secret Wars, the Beyonder is very fascinated by humans and what evolution has done to humanity in the first place. But I also like the idea of using someone like Eclipso, a character who really isn't used that often, but has the potential of being a huge threat for the DC universe. So guys, I hope you all enjoyed the story. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other big Marvel stories you'd like to see me try and retell in the DC universe. That is all I have for you on this one, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.